Good afternoon, my turtle ducks. Just in time for tea. Please help yourself. I've got sugar and honey and cream or lemon, and we've got jam and butter for the tea cookies. Before we can really jump into the details, we should probably clarify what is etiquette and how, or is it, different from manners? Here, dear turtle ducks, is the difference. One who knows etiquette has manners. Etiquette is what one practices. There can be etiquette over all sorts of things: dining etiquette, business etiquette, party etiquette, even etiquette involving how one interacts with friends and families and strangers in all sorts of places. Manners, on the other hand, is what one has. Manners will always be applied to living, socializing creatures. Both have somewhat classist associations, and the rules can change as widely as country to country or as narrowly as family to family. So remember that etiquette and manners both are more guidelines for smoothing social interactions, and if there are any hard rules with no exceptions, I'm not aware of them. Now that we know what etiquette is, why should we care? Well, for one, we're already using it. Everyone is already showing the manners they have learned. Has anyone ever held the door for you? Etiquette. Has someone ever asked, "How are you?" without really expecting an answer? Etiquette. The primary use of etiquette is to be a guide for social interactions. If you have ever been in a situation and thought, "I don't really know how to handle this," or even, "I'm not sure how I should respond," etiquette's purpose is to give one a guide for how to behave, even when thrown into uncertain circumstances. Additionally, because etiquette is considered the standard for politeness, it usually gives us social capital in any given situation. The more often we are polite and show that we have excellent manners, the more likely we are to garner goodwill, even from strangers. This can be exceptionally helpful when good-natured manners convince someone to go a little above and beyond to help us. There are also benefits for people who are like me, neurodivergent folk who have a hard time navigating social interactions naturally. For us, etiquette provides a concrete set of rules. Even if etiquette has as many exceptions as English grammar, the basic framework gives us something to build off and fall back on in new situations. I, personally, have been greatly helped by the little rules. Honestly, I have gotten in the most trouble when I strayed from my personal training of etiquette and behaved impolitely. Then we have what one might least expect. Etiquette can be used to change the world. I know, it probably sounds counterintuitive. How could a set of traditional guidelines be used to change the world? Well, because etiquette also changes. Some things will always remain the same. We should address others respectfully. We should treat our guests with care. We should drink our tea while it is still hot. Other things may change. Our generally accepted terms of what constitutes respectful may change. The distinction between Miss and Ma'am used to be extremely important. Now it is generally considered respectful to use either. Thus, we can push change by adding to and adjusting our definitions. Now, it would be considered extremely rude to drop by someone's home, even a friend, without prior announcement of one's intentions. We have text messages and social media and other methods to ensure we are not dropping by at an inconvenient time. One might say we are dropping a calling card via technology. With that in mind, one might reasonably wonder, how do I incorporate these magical guidelines? The answer is to make it a conscious habit. Acknowledge that at the beginning, we will not always remember our guidelines, that it will take practice, and when we do miss an opportunity to flex these new skills, we should simply make a note and keep an eye out for the next opportunity. After a while, we won't have to consciously focus nearly so much. We will have built strong habits that roll from our personage as easily as donning a favorite cloak. It is important to remember that even once it has become secondhand, situations may arise that catch us off guard and make it easy to slip into impolite or even downright rude behaviors. The important thing is to apologize if the situation warrants an apology, Reflect to see what you might have done differently for a more desirable outcome. Forgive yourself and move forward. Perfection is a noble goal, but an unreasonable expectation. We may notice, as our behaviors slowly change, others around us may remark upon the change or even begin to reflect those changes in themselves. In this way, leading a positive change can encourage others to change themselves. However, do remember, unsolicited advice is almost always unwanted. While it is perfectly normal to discuss all manner of topics, unless one is a parent or other authority with consent to correct behavior, etiquette should not be forced upon friends and family. If we wish others to change their behavior, it is best to communicate why their behavior affects us negatively. Presuming the other party is the caring sort, they will seek to change their behavior accordingly. Now for one of my absolute favorite uses of etiquette, a shield. It may not surprise anyone to learn that unfailingly polite behavior can soften even the toughest people to treating you or those around you better. It is difficult even for the most ornery of people to use us as an excuse for our own poor behavior if ours remains unwaveringly polite. Equally, there are a number of etiquette rules for cutting in, so to speak, that allow us to break up what looks like a tense or uncomfortable interaction and redirect towards more pleasant and a safer direction. While a shield is not the ideal tool in every situation, it is my preferred tool. Weapons always risk collateral damage, and while sometimes the risk is a necessary one, in your Baba's humble opinion, it should be a last resort. Now, undoubtedly, you will encounter someone who is rude. It is an unfortunate fact of life. No matter how much we might wish that everyone could simply be polite and kind, our world in general has not yet progressed to where we collectively encourage such behavior. Trauma abounds, and unhealthy coping skills result in all sorts of negative behaviors. When that happens, it is sometimes helpful to remember that polite and nice are not the same. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the phrase, "You may test that assumption at your earliest convenience." This is an extremely polite and even professional way to deliver a warning. Keeping this in mind, sometimes a liberal smothering of etiquette can curtail rudeness or even prompt the offending party to offer an apology once they are unable to crack the polished shield. Of course, sometimes the most polite thing you can do is ignore the behavior entirely or excuse oneself. Similarly, for rude comments, if they are uttered in person, there are three responses we may politely deliver. The first is no response at all. Allow the comment to go unremarked upon. This can be the most effective for comments made only to draw attention. The second is to respond with a question or a comment that counters what was said and draws attention to its absurdity or its rudeness. The last is to simply excuse oneself. The implication of immediate departure being the comment was so unconscionable as to leave only one response. Finally, what do we do when rudeness crosses over into threats? My dear turtle ducks, your safety should always be at the forefront of your priorities. Seek out a safe place or safe people immediately. If need be, call the local authorities. While there is plenty of etiquette surrounding requesting sanctuary at a religious establishment, refuge in someone's home, and how to properly handle the authorities, your focus should always be your personal safety. The only reason to maintain the shield of etiquette is to prevent the threatening party from using any of your behaviors against you. Well, let's not end on such a somber note. I hope what you take from this intro to etiquette is how these guidelines are intended to make our lives easier and our social interactions smoother. If everyone is working under the same guidelines, there will be fewer misunderstandings, which will lead to less conflict. Let's work together to make a world with less conflict in our own small ways. Well, I think that's all I have time for today. I should get back to work. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, be kind, my little turtle ducks, to others and to yourselves.